Ashok Kumar, would you want to come in here? We do understand where this commentary, anti-immigrant commentary, is coming from. The fact is that Europe does have a migrant problem. One, they are trying to fight off. But, for example, if you just look at France, 10% of France's population right now is made up of immigrants. Do you think it is right for us at this point of time, when investigations are still on, to link it to immigrants or to Muslims living in France? Or is this just something that we should take as a law and order issue?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you remember this, maybe your viewers know about this, but last year there were mobs driven by Hindus in Leicester, in Britain. I certainly don't think that we would say there's something about Hinduism that motivated them to do those riots, right? Same in Canada. Most of the migrants who are coming in Canada right now are Indian Hindus. There's a huge anti-migrant sentiment. I don't think that is something particular about Hinduism and Hindu culture that's driving the violence and the homelessness in Canada. The idea that immigration leads to more crime simply isn't backed up by the evidence. Study after study, including government data, shows that immigrants are less likely to commit crimes than native-born citizens per capita. In Britain, the Ministry of Justice just recently, their own figures showed lower conviction rates among foreign-born residents. In the U.S., states with higher migrants have lower crime rates than those with lower migrant rates. So we can say these impulsive things, but I don't think, I mean, the evidence just doesn't support that. If people already have anti-migrant sentiment, if there's a football riot full of white British people or white French people, no one will say something particular about British culture or French culture that's leading to that violence. But, like, for example, what's happened in France, we don't know what's happened still and what the composition of the people are. But let's say it comes out that it is more migrants, the focus will be about something particular about the culture. And so the myth survives because it's politically useful. You know, it's used to sort of, these kind of crackdowns are used to justify and distract from lots of different social problems. You know, if you look at far-right parties in France, far-right parties in Britain, they use a question of migration to not address issues that we're dealing with in society, like the inequality or whatever it might be. Yes, this is a problem and the state needs to deal with it, but it's not about immigration because the studies and the research doesn't back that up. Excuse me.
No, I understand that studies and research is not backing up the link between immigration and crime, but the fact is that the French president a couple of years ago on television had said, if you just look at Paris, 50% of the crimes that are committed in Paris are by immigrants. Again, in London, where you live. You know, when you're talking about grooming gangs, the British police was too scared to say, you know, Asians, especially Pakistanis, were involved because they thought they would be seen as racists. So sometimes, you know, police forces don't come out and say things openly. In this case, the identity of the 14 men who have been arrested have not been released. But we have seen what has happened in London as well.
Look, if you look at London per capita, in terms of Britain's highest immigration population, it's not nearly as dangerous as small towns where there's almost no migrants. If you look at it per capita, yes, was an issue of the grooming gangs. But if you look at the total population of, let's say, Pakistani men and compare them to British men, the proportion of the population in terms of sexual violence is exactly the same, or it's actually less. Once you control for class, geography, other social conditions, there's not something particular about the culture. What you're making here is a kind of eugenics argument. You're saying there's something particular about Hindus in Leicester that drove them to do violence. There's something particular about Muslims in France that makes them more violent. But what is it particular? You're saying, is there some barbarism that's part of being from the global south or a post-colonial country that makes us more violent? Is that the argument you're making? Are you saying we're more violent than whites? Or is that the argument? Because it's very hard for me to understand. You're rejecting the studies. Yes, there were grooming gangs. There's also, if you look at pedophilia rates in this country, it's overwhelmingly done by British men. But nobody really talks about that. I mean, the state has continuously, for 40 years, protected pedophiles in positions of power. We know that. But nobody says that's a problem with elite white men who are doing that.